Amanda, Mariani, I'm so excited to have you. And before we even get started, I have to say congratulations for winning the International Franchisee of the Year award for Stagecoach.
Thank
Amazing
you.
work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
How crazy. So, like, you embarked on this journey in 2020, like right before COVID. It was a shit show, right? For the first little bit, because you're creating a space where you're getting people together in an environment where, like, we weren't technically allowed to get together. So, before we get into the nitty gritty details of all of that, could you explain a little bit more, like, what Stagecoach is about and the franchisee that you opened?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And so, Stagecoach essentially is a performing arts school for kids. So, we do everything based around acting, singing, and dance. So, those kids who maybe aren't into the sports or all of those things that may be a little bit like more popular, for lack of a better term.
Mm.
It's pretty niche, but it's the kids who are super creative and expressive, and they're just like ready to like be front and center on stage, or maybe they're not ready yet, but we help to get them there.
Mm.
So we teach students as young as 4 years old.
Oh,
And
wow. That's
yeah,
young.
it's super young, and it's such a great, and we can go into more detail about it, of course, but it's a great way to get them started,
Hmm.
and just to remove that kind of fear. And the model goes all the way up to 18, so there's a really wide range of ages that we work with. And that's basically it. It's all performing arts every day.
So are you doing like workshops? Are you putting productions together? Are like these different age groups working together or like in separate groups? How does it work?
So it's an extracurricular activity. So, like for example, my school runs on a Saturday, but
Okay.
we have a lot of freedom to do whatever, So if I wanted to open up a Wednesday school or a Friday or a Sunday school, we have the freedom to do that. They are split into groups. So, like the younger ones, we call those the early stages. They're between 4 and 6 years old. They have their own teacher and TA. And their courses are, of course, a bit shorter just because
Attention
otherwise,
span.
attention span. And our older students between the ages of 7 and 14, they come to us for 3 hours, and they get more specialized training in acting, singing, and dance separately versus a combination for the younger ones that keep them moving a lot. So they definitely work separately. We work, if they sign up for like an entire year, we always do an end of year production. And, that's kind of like the pinnacle. That's what they're working
Yeah, it's
towards,
fun. Amazing. That's super cool. Okay, so let's go. You started this in 2020. Like, tell me the story of like conception to being like, all right, I can do this. Like, what did it take to, first of all, even open up a franchise, just like a space, really?
Honestly, so you're talking to okay, so I taught for 12 years. So I
Yeah.
did not have an entrepreneurial bone in my body. Um,
Or so you didn't think you
or so
did.
I didn't think I did. Exactly. I knew I was ready for leadership. I had moved away and taught overseas for 4 years in the Middle East. And that was like, they will recognize potential and move you up very quickly.
That's
So,
cool.
yeah, so like every year I would be like, oh, okay. And they're like, well, we want you to put this, we want you in this position of responsibility and or leadership. And I was like, me? you know, are you sure? But I started doing it. I started loving it. I loved guiding and supporting educators. And I was like, cool. Okay. Duly noted. I mean, I've been a theater person my whole life. I've been singing since a very young age. So it's kind of like, I'm like in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, like I think in Cégep, I said one day I want to open a theater school for kids.
Oh, there you go.
So it was a thing. It was sitting in the back of my head. My uncle, who's really going to appreciate this shout out, so I just have to shout him out.
Do it.
My Zuniello is a serial entrepreneur, and it was the year I was coming back from Dubai, and he sent me this franchise opportunity, and he was like, Amanda, this literally has your name written all over it, And I was like, oh my God, it seems scary. But moving back from the Middle East, I was so ready. I was like,
Hmm.
okay, you know what? I love teaching, but I think I'm ready to transition out of the classroom and into this leadership role or to have my own thing. The head office is based in the UK. I wrote to them. I said, hey, I'm interested. They flew someone out to Montreal.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, he met us here. And I remember being like, oh, I feel so aligned with this. Like, it just felt so right. And that was it. I like signed on the dotted line.
Wow. So,
Yeah.
because I know with like certain franchises, depending on, I guess, like what it entails, there is an investment up front because they provide you, let's say, like marketing collateral that you can utilize. So,
Yeah.
was there an investment that you had to put up front in order to start the franchise?
Yeah, exactly. So there
Yeah.
was
Okay.
an initial franchise fee, and I had paid, a portion of it, not knowing this was 2019, so not knowing what was
Oh, to
around the
come.
corner. So I had only, they only required me to pay the other portion of it once I actually got my school up and running, which
Well, that's
was
nice.
amazing. As a
Yeah.
franchise, like, I can't say enough about Stagecoach. I've had nothing but incredible experiences with them, and they provided support and guidance through that entire process. So I feel very, very lucky and grateful.
Yeah. And then so like how much of it is regulated by like them and their like do they give you some kind of like curriculum or do you have a lot of free reign? I'm curious to know like what the flexibility is because like the franchise model that I'm thinking of that I go to is like F45, which is like a fitness studio. And it's the same thing no matter where you are in the world. Like the workouts are exactly the same, the regimen is the same, the marketing material is the same, the messaging is the same. So like I'm curious to know, like with Stagecoach, every franchise is a bit different. And this one, I feel just like the industry that it's in, being in performing arts, like I feel like there would be some more flexibility. So, like, how much of it is like guided by them, and then how much of it is guided by you?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. We are in creative arts, right? And so we do have this really nice freedom to be able to, what they provide us, like you said, marketing materials, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We have a brilliant marketing team, and the educational framework. So
Yes. Okay. Cool.
they have worked and reworked this and asked for our input. And, I got to see part of it, also the new one coming in. So we also get to contribute to that, which is super fun. And yeah, so we get this framework, and let's say, I'm just throwing out an example for the 4 to 6 year olds in singing. If one of their goals is to match pitch, the teacher has free reign over how they want to do that.
Okay. Cool.
So that's what's fun about it, is that, like, because I've hired teachers who are creatives and experts in their own domain.
Mm-hmm.
And so however they choose to lesson plan, they have the framework with them, and they say, okay, hey, we're going to choose these as goals for this term and these as goals for this term. And we're going to do it with our own pizzazz. And that's what's
Right.
super fun about it, is that they put their personal flair on it. And I just help guide them with different aspects of that educational framework.
Right. So it's like this is like a list of the things that we want to accomplish. How we get there, it's kind of like up to you. And that's where you have the flexibility, which is cool because then I feel like that's where you get also your like personal stamp and brand, depending on who you hire and their energy and whatnot. Which is great. And I know I've known you personally as well. So like if anyone's matching your energy, even like a tiny bit, I know that they're great.
I've been very, very lucky. Honestly, like the team that I have, I tell them all the time. I was like, we really do have a dream team, you guys. Like we
Mm,
really do. And I know that's part and parcel of, because what I bring to the business as well. Our logo, our tagline, so to speak, for Stagecoach is creative courage for life. And it's something that I continue to reiterate to my team, is like, that's what we're building. Like, I don't need like the next, I don't know, Joaquin Phoenix walking out. I don't know why that was the first actor that came to mind, but anyway. But like these, like, of course, it's super fun if a student can walk out of here and be like, oh my God, I got into an acting academy, or but we really want to instill courage, creativity, and like all of those things that come with life. Like, these are life skills too that translate out of school, out of what we do, and into their personal lives. So it's fun to watch, my teachers really bridge that gap. It's very magical.
That's cool. So going back to like timeline, because we've been like jumping back and
Oh
forth.
yeah.
You signed the papers in 2019, COVID happens, and like I think you mentioned the first 2 years, did you like not have any students at all?
Dead in the
Nothing.
water. Dead in the water.
Oh, damn, that sucks. But
Yeah.
like I guess you didn't there was nothing like did you have a lease of some sort, or really was it just like the first installment that you paid with the franchisee and then you got to chill? Okay,
Yeah.
that's actually like thank God for that, right?
I know. Honestly, I always I look at it as like a blessing in disguise in a way where I'm like, thank God I had a franchise who was willing to say, hey,
Yeah.
it's okay, keep your money for now. Established schools were doing online programs, but I was like, that's not the way I want to start.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. I feel that. That makes sense. Okay, so then when did you actually start to get things going and like what was the first like, okay, doors are open, like what did that look like?
So April 2022 is when I did what we call a discovery day. So that meant that I finally had a space to rent from a school, essentially, and we had this open house. So I had my staff, I had everything in order, and I just went
Cool.
like all out. Like,
What does that mean all out?
where
Elaborate.
I got like Stagecoach logo cookies made. I had
Oh,
like this beautiful balloon wall. We had rotations of activities.
fun.
I had my entire family and all my friends making coffee for parents, and just like, I wanted it to feel like family.
I love that.
I wanted it
Yeah.
to feel like, okay, so you're going to leave your child with us right now. Like, trust us, we're really good people.
Yeah.
But also it's just, it gave that community feel to it. And I think
Hmm.
people felt that when they left because we had registrations already. So there was a 2 week window between discovery day
Hmm.
and day one, like of our very first term. And that's kind of how that looked. Rental of the space and everything, and then just the open house. And then obviously, word of mouth from there on. But yeah.
Yeah. So those like initial people that signed on, like what do you feel like is the thing that drew them to you guys aside from, the feeling that they had during that open house of the family? Do you feel like there's something specific that's maybe different that you do that other schools maybe don't that drew them to you versus somebody else?
Yeah, Stagecoach kind of sets itself apart in the way that we do this. We hit the three disciplines under one roof.
What are the
So
three disciplines?
acting, singing, dance.
Okay, cool.
So you can go to an acting class, you can take singing lessons, and there's a ton of dance schools, obviously.
Hmm.
But where do you find that under one roof? And
Got it.
so that's kind of how we set ourselves apart. So what I had during the open house was also a very clear idea for parents to say, okay, in the gym, you can watch your child do basic movement and choreography with our dance teacher. And then if you want to tour around, you'll see that in the acting class, they're working on improv. And then if you go on this side, you're going to see that they're working on some really cool songs with the singing teacher. And so it gave them that, what is my child going to do for 3 hours here
Mm,
on a Saturday? And yeah, why is it more special? Well, because you hone in on the skills more individually versus just like a mishmash or one thing at a time.
yeah, I love that. That's so fun. Honestly, like I always said this, I never ended up getting into like drama or anything in high school, but I had a teacher in grade 6 who she was our French teacher, and the way that she helped us practice the language was by doing improv.
Mm,
And I remember having so much fun with it, and also just growing up, going to like Ukrainian sleepaway camp every night at like the bonfire. We would do like skits,
yeah.
and it was like the highlight of my entire camp experience. And I always thought like I was like, oh my gosh, I'd be such a I don't know that I would actually be a great actress. Like I don't have a voice, so like screw the voice thing, but I did get into dance and I was doing dance. So it's like
Yeah.
I loved all of these things, and it honestly sounds like so much fun to be able to do those. And for it to not be like you kind of hinted at it in the beginning, you're like, oh, it's like less cool or whatever, which I'm not going to lie, when I was in high school, that's kind of the mindset that I had. I was like, like the drama class, like it's not as cool, even though it was kind of like interesting to me. Now looking back, I'm like, those people are fucking cool.
Yeah.
And I wish I had the balls to like do it myself. It's like I was like scared of like judgment because you are really putting yourself out there. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, you don't know if you're actually like a good actor or whatever. And you have to audition and like you're in front of all these people. And I don't know, it was like very intimidating for me.
Yeah. And I mean, it is to a lot of people. Like I went into the drama program in high school, and I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
and I was singing from a young age, and I used to sing at all of our assemblies. So I like love that stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
like
You have
put
a
me,
great voice too, by the
thank
way.
you. I'm like, put me front and center, like, so that was never, but when I joined drama, it was like a different, like, oh my God, this is super fun. And then
Mm-hmm.
going into SAGEP after, I was like, oh wow, like I went into professional theater, and it was like a really intense audition, and it was like people got cut from that program.
Yeah. Oh, wait, for people who are not from Quebec too,
Oh yes.
CEGEP is kind of like a college, like pre-university program. And what you're referring to, it's kind of like a specialty program. So a lot of people did these career programs. I myself did that too, but in graphic design.
Yes.
So it's like 3 years where you're specializing in that trade. So you did one in like acting, correct?
Yeah, professional
Okay.
theater, exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
professional theater.
Yeah. And that was it, and it was hard work. Like we were at school 13 hours a day,
Yeah.
especially during production. We were doing massive productions, and
Mm-hmm.
like we had packed houses all the time. And I was like, wow, there's something here, like everybody used to look at us like we were the theater kids in the school. And they were just kind of like, we had our own like section of our college, and I was just like, I don't even care. I don't even
Good for
care.
you. Honestly, good for you. If you think about it though, like it's funny that we have this perception of that early on when you look at like the big Hollywood actors, like what do you think they fucking did in school?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Like you're not making fun of them now, are ya?
I hope not. And they all say it too. Like, oh, so actually, some of the British, UK actors, like in season 1 of Bridgerton, there was an actress on there that went to Stagecoach in the UK.
Wow, cool.
So like it is like internationally recognized, and
Yeah.
it's super fun. Like because you can technically start at 4 and follow all the way up to 18, right?
Yeah.
So like it is a legitimate thing, but like no, I'm always amazed by people who started out, in that way, because these are also people who are excellent public speakers later on,
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
they own their own companies, or they run something, there's no stage fright there. They get up and they're just ready to go. So like I said, it translates into everything.
Yeah, and I know that you're a good speaker too. Like I've seen like glimpses, this and that, and I bet your teaching helped with that too, because you're constantly going in front of people, kids, teenagers, whatever,
Yeah.
and communicating, and you have to be clear and you have to be concise, and like really it comes with practice. It's like the more you do it, the better you get. And if you take a workshop here and there on how to be better, it's like you're golden. And so it even comes through like even the way that you're speaking now, like you're such a good storyteller. Not everybody has
Mhm.
the knack to tell stories, or they do and it's like too long-winded and like it's like just like the perfect amount of
Yeah.
detail,
Thank you.
to like not lose someone and also not be like having to pull teeth to like get more details out of it. So it's like
Yes.
I feel that even just in this conversation, like
Yeah.
you could see your experience come through.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. It's definitely it's something like you learn to read the room. It's very interpersonal also,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you really like I pick up on cues very quickly and stuff like that. So like that all comes with both theater and teaching for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's the improv aspect too, I think, in teaching, because it's like, yeah, you have your lesson, but then certain questions come up and you have to whatever. And like, it's interesting, actually. I've never really thought of it that way, but there are so many parallels.
Oh,
There really
huge,
are.
huge,
Yeah.
huge, huge. I tell my kids used to laugh at me all the time. I no longer teach full time, but when I did, I would tell them all the time. And I was like, okay, this is my stage.
Yes.
This is my stage. This is Miss Amanda or whatever stage. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, this is, I was like, we have rules here, and we express ourselves in certain ways, and you're constantly pivoting. Like you're constantly pivoting. So you start to hone that skill also, and being flexible and be open-minded. So it's all part and parcel of it.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned to me, before we started recording, this concept of you having to overcome some limiting beliefs,
Mm.
things that were kind of blocking you from taking that next step, struggling with some self-doubt. Can you talk a little bit on like what that's journey been? Because you come off as being like so confident and so sure, which of course could also be part of the act. But like, what was that transition for you? Like we know the story, but like, how did you feel when throughout that story?
Yeah. So like super stressed. Um, because like I said, I hadn't like flexed my entrepreneurial bone at all. I was like lost.
Mm,
I had seeked a lot of guidance from my father, who's, self-employed, my brother also, who's self-employed, my uncle, who is the one who sent me the franchise opportunity. And I was just like, I don't know the first thing about like, how do you put a business plan together or like any of this stuff? Because I had to do
yeah.
that for like finances and stuff like that.
Right.
So there were many days where it's just like a giant a sense of overwhelm. And like, I'm a highly emotional person.
Hmm.
So when I'm overwhelmed, I basically just break down. And then I start to question myself, like, who do I think I am to like start a business? Like in my head, I was like, I'm a teacher. I'm going to play it safe. Like, why do I have to go and risk all of this security just
Right.
because I have this like nagging feeling that I could do something on my own? Like, who the hell do I think I am? You
That
know?
feeling is something though to listen to.
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive. And it was like, I started seeing like, okay, all these little road, like the minor ones at the beginning, not like COVID.
Yeah.
Um, just the minor ones where I was like, okay, and okay, I did that. Oh yeah, I overcame that. I got a business coach who started, talking to me or talking me through different aspects and what does it look like to organize what your spreadsheets and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, I could do this. Um,
Suddenly it becomes a little less daunting, right?
it becomes less daunting, and
Hmm.
it becomes second nature eventually. And
Yeah.
that's what everybody kept reminding me of. They're like, Amanda, like, you're gonna get there. You're too hard on yourself. And that's one of my biggest challenges, is that I'm too hard on myself. And so like, if I feel like it should be better, or it could be better, then it should be better.
Hmm.
And so like, after my open house, when I like took a step back and said like, holy shit, I just did that. Like, and it was good.
How gratifying though. Like it's not the best fucking feeling.
It's the best feeling in the world. And like 2 weeks ago, we had our production. We did like a spin-off of The Wizard of Oz. We did There's No Place Like Home.
How fun.
And I'm stressed and freaking out. I'm like 2 years into my business, second production. So not like 10 years, but
Yeah, yeah.
I kind of know the gist now.
Yeah.
And that week, still having multiple breakdowns, and just being like, everything's a mess, like the kids don't know their stuff, or the costumes and I don't have this and it's not going to be good, and like freaking out because I feel like, oh, I how am I going to pull this off? And then it just comes together seamlessly because I organized it in that way. And I keep not giving myself enough credit for
Hmm.
that, you know?
I feel like there's almost like two aspects to what you just said too, and I'm curious to know if I'm right or wrong in both of these, but there's the like the breaking down and the stressing of the actual production itself and putting it together and having all the pieces in place and whatnot. But then there's the like quality, if I may say, of the performance, right? Because you have a certain, I guess, like expectation or responsibility to teach these kids X, Y, and Z through your school. So do you feel like there's a pressure there? Like, do you fear that maybe the parents think that like their kids didn't progress enough or that the school wasn't like the best for them? Like, do you think that?
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
always.
Crazy.
I'm like the parents pay to have their kids come here,
Yeah.
and we do have this name that maybe not in Montreal yet. It's not as big yet here, but we have this name across like several countries that has a certain
Reputation.
reputation. And I'm like, I want to maintain all that because I believe in it so deeply that I'm just like, I don't want to disappoint anybody.
Yeah.
We all know full well that if a kid gets up on stage, the parent is already crying just
Yeah.
because the kid is up on stage. Okay? Like, they're all like, oh my God. And that's brilliant. But I don't, that to me, that's like, yeah, okay, but it ain't good enough. Like, let's really show them what these kids can do. They are brilliant. These children are brilliant. And I'm like, I want to really showcase that on stage. So a lot of the comments that I've gotten this year and last year was, you blew us out of the water. Like,
Amazing.
we can't believe that this is what our kid can do. And I'm like, yes, yes.
Um,
Oh, yes.
yes. Well, that's good news,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
must be motivating,
Yeah, it is.
right?
It
I mean,
is.
listen, at the end of the day, not everyone's going to be the next like Angelina Jolie, but you know, like I'm just thinking like I did dance class and I think I was like a good dancer, but I wasn't the best dancer,
Yeah.
you know, and my mom didn't like go to the school and be like, she's not good enough because of you. You know, like
Right.
there's only so much you can do. And I think as long as there's like some kind of like improvement or growth and like the kid's happy and still wants to do the thing, then it's like quality is like a part of it, sure, but like you're still so young too and like just developing and learning, and it's also about like building those skills, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you can't expect perfection. It's also, I'm sure, a big comparison game because like, you know, the 16-year-old next to the 16-year-old, if one is better than the other and you know, that whole thing. But hey, everyone has like their own timeline and everyone has their own skill set, and maybe one that's thriving in dance, the other will be thriving in singing, right?
Well, that's it. So they have this really nice space to explore in. And like what I have to remember is like a student comes in and walks through the door every single morning and says to me, like, this is my favorite place to be each week. And I'm
Love
like,
that. So
oh,
cute.
right. Like we created that space. And
So
like
special.
that moment, those moments where I'm like freaking out or I'm questioning myself, or like a lot of it is like literally I always say, I'm like, who the hell do I think I am? But no, but I am creating this space for kids. I want them to feel safe. I want them to feel happy. I want them to feel secure in exactly who they are and expressing that. And so those types of comments that come from parents, like it's not until this year, and I would say more specifically the last few months, that I actually started listening and believing them at their word, because
Yeah.
I was always like, oh no, they have to say that. No, actually they don't.
No, they don't. They don't. It's actually reminding me like a few hours ago, I got off a call. I have a team that supports and builds out brands for all of our clients. And I used to be involved in the process a lot more than I am. But right now, like one of my girls is leaving on mat leave. So like I'm reintegrating back. And so I was a little bit more involved in this project than usual. And on the call, the client, like literally, like before we even ended, he's like, wait, guys, like there's just one more thing that I want to say. Like, I really just want to say how grateful I am. Like, I can't believe how you took our ideas and brought them to reality. And this is exactly what we wanted. And we weren't super clear, but you knew what we wanted and we love it. And we're so happy. And like, thank you so much. And we're only like the first step is done. We have like 5 more steps to go, you know?
Yeah.
And like just hearing that, even like though I wasn't involved in every step, it's like the fact that like I was able to build this team that I'm proud of, you know, but then to hear it from the client and get that affirmation, you're like, wow, thank you. You know, and I've gotten a lot better at accepting compliments over the years because I mean, in your business, I think it's a little different with you. It'll take time. You'll start to separate yourself. When in the beginning of my business, I was very much like connected as like I am my business.
Yes.
Now I feel like I have more of a separation, but so I could see where you have that the connection to those like compliments and stuff. So like with the business, I'll take all the fucking compliments and I will take them with grace. It's like the personal ones that like we're working on, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like it's so good to hear and it's validating. And like you said, they don't have to say those things. Like they are going out of their way to put the effort to let you know these things. So like if anyone's listening and this resonates with you, if someone's complimenting you, like they don't have to. So like take it, embrace it, and like live by it.
Yes,
you know?
Exactly. Set the example constantly for yourself. Like I think in my post, when I posted about the award, I said like, I'm going to bask in this for just a little while. I really feel like I owe it to myself to do that and to just continue to show up in the way that led me there constantly. Like that's how I want to show up. I want to show up with that much integrity and that much passion and that much dedication and make sure that that's what's infused to my school, you know?
Yeah. And like to go back, International Franchisee of the Year is no joke. Like you said, this is an international franchise. Like there are multiple people doing this. Like what is the criteria that they look for and what did they see in you that got you this award?
So basically, so from what I understand,
this is, you're supposed to toot your own horn here. So let's go.
So basically when they announced it, they go on how and a franchisee has scaled their business.
Okay.
And so, because I very much did not expect to win this award, when I was kind of listening, they had me on FaceTime, but they also like did it in a, with a different approach just to get me on FaceTime. But they said this individual has scaled their business by 145% over 2 years.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, that person's amazing.
You're like, who's that?
Good for you, And then they started talking about passion and dedication and that integrity and the embodiment of what a Stagecoach franchisee is.
Mm.
And then they said my name. And I just was like, the fuck?
Jaw dropping. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm not good with numbers. Okay. That's
You're like 145%. I'm going to leverage that.
right. I'm like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of percents. So I was very confused. But when I look at my numbers and what I started with, and I keep forgetting it was only 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I see where I'm at now and where we're heading and opening more classes and more classes, and more classes. I'm like, oh, right. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like that makes sense. And like, there's everyone at head office and everyone there and my colleagues know that like, I'm nowhere near like stopping or like, I want growth.
It's just the beginning.
It's just the beginning, like now I'm like, okay, this gave me like a renewed sense of confidence.
Fire. Okay.
So that's what's gonna, and the recognition is amazing. It's really special because sometimes we work and we work and we work and we don't necessarily,
take it all in.
Yeah.
No, it's good. It's good for yourself and your self-esteem for sure. And from a business perspective, I think it's also like a great accolade to leverage, right? Yeah. We are, our franchisee is award winning. Like who doesn't want to say that and be able to say that is already an honor in and of itself. Yeah. And the fact that you did it so quickly is incredible. So, I mean, I've said it before, but I'll say it a million times. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really something amazing that you've accomplished. Thank you so much for sharing all about your journey. Before we end, I'd like to finish with the mindful minute where you share a piece of advice, something that either someone told you or that you learned along the way of your entrepreneurial journey and building your brand, something that maybe we can't learn from a textbook. What would that be?
Just to be present. So I have a very hard time doing that. Mm-hmm. I remember, and a lot of people have said this to me, so I guess I haven't mastered it yet. But to be very present in every small win and celebrate the shit out of that small win. Okay. So my very first registration, and that child is still with us now. That very first registration, I remember like losing it and just crying and being like, oh my God, like that's my first registration. Mm-hmm. And like saw my brother like a few days after or whatever it was. And he wrote this card and like a bottle,
so
like got me a beautiful bottle of champagne and was like, don't ever forget this moment and really feel this moment because there's going to be so many moments that are going to break you down, obviously, as in business, as in life, that are really going to, it's going to stress you out. It's going to set you back, but it's in recognizing all of your accomplishments and being very present for each, like just even if you're making 1% progress, to me, that's massive. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to live by that every single day and really, really soaking it in. Like watching the kids on stage last weekend, I had to remind myself, be present. Like you're right here, right now, talking to a parent, who's talking about their kid and their journey with me. My head is not going to be thinking about the next cohort of kids that's coming in because I've got a team to manage that. So I can let go a little bit and I can be present and listen to this parent who is like just amazed by how far their child has come.
Yeah.
This is the stuff that like I want to celebrate every single win and just be present.
I love that.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank
Amanda, where can
you.
everyone go to learn more about Stagecoach? And it's Westmount and NDG, right? We never really spoke about the location.
Yes, yes. My territory is Westmount NDG. Right now, we have the school in Westmount. We will surely be growing soon. So we have a website, Stagecoach Westmount NDG. If you Google us, you'll find us. I have a Facebook page with a very long name because it had to also have French in it. So it's École des Arts de la Scène Stagecoach Performing Arts. Westmount NDG. You can't say that without taking a breath. And our Instagram as well, which is just the name of our school, Stagecoach _Westmount _NDG. It just showcases highlights of everything that we do every single weekend, and what we accomplish with the kids.
So fun. Amazing. Thank you so much for everyone listening. I hope this was inspiring for you, and we'll chat next week. Bye.